Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Welcome to the Fly With Us podcast. This podcast is bringing the art of conversation, self-love, self-care, mental health care and protection, life lessons, love lessons, and everything in between. Today we are joined by a special guest, Mr. MC Picket. I'm Lady Bounce, and I'd like to say welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's your boy, Picket Fence.
All right, so we're going to start off with our Mindfulness Minute for this episode, and it's about organic self-expression. I release the need to express myself through the acquisition of things. I cultivate my own creative nature organically, and I let go of commercial brands. Consumer cultures do not do moderation very well. In a consumer culture, moderation, or God forbid, asceticism, can only be viewed as a form of death. In a consumer culture, to buy things and display them is an expression of identity. Not to consume is to be no one. These societies now devouring the world cannot stand still even for a moment. The most heretical thing that one can do in such a culture is to express oneself organically without a branded identity. Entering a higher state of consciousness can be as simple as breathing more deeply over an extended period of time. Today, try some deep breathing. Add some music if it helps. Preferably, this should be music without a lot of lyrics. When you feel yourself beginning to let go of ordinary awareness, you may work on a specific problem through artwork or musical composition. Go ahead and express your creative self, even if it makes you uncomfortable. You may find a hidden guide there in the creative space, waiting to guide you into a more peaceful way of life. So talk to us a little bit about your...
Dope.
That was dope. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be trying. So talk to us a little bit about your organic self-expression. What is that?
Well, I'm a recording artist. I'm an MC. I don't like to call myself a rapper. I'm not just a rapper, excuse me. I like to think of myself as an audio video artist. I like to bring a full spectrum. I like to paint pictures with the music, and then, if at all possible, have a visual that goes with that music.
So where does your creative process start? So do you start with the video part? Do the pictures come to your mind first? Or does the music come first?
Well, being in the field of hip hop, mine usually starts at digging. And for those that don't know what digging is, early hip hop and even hip hop today is sample based. I'm a big digger. I don't consider myself a producer because I don't chop up the beats. I have producers do that, but I always do the digging for my songs, and that's the organic process. The old school process that I like to do is actually going to the record store, thumbing through old records, and then once you get those old records, take them home, just sit down and just listen to the records as they are. And as you listen to those records, you'll hear little pieces that you might want to use. Sometimes it's the music itself. Sometimes it may be a conversation on the record. It might be just horns from a song or just drums for a song. I also dig through cartoons. I dig through TV shows, especially from the era that I grew up in, especially animated shows from the era that I grew up in and before my time. TV shows that I watched growing up, just getting those little pieces. And the process after that, I usually have my man Cooley or Kuda Mac. And before them, I had my brother Stefano, God bless the dead. I would take those little pieces, give it to them, and let them make the gumbo. Put all those things together, and then they would format it so that I can put my verses in where they needed to be throughout the song.
Okay. So this gumbo, as you call it, how do you, are you in the studio with them when they're doing this? And if you're not in the studio, how do they know how to make it just right?
Well, Kuda Mac, he doesn't currently live in our area anymore. So I usually just like, if there's just a certain section that I want, I'll be like, check out this section. And then I'll just let him go to work with that section.
Okay.
With Cooley, I'm usually there with him. And even before he chops up the piece that I want, we'll do like I initially did and just listen to the whole piece of the music. Now for the clips of audio clips of vocals and stuff like that, he'll just go ahead and cut those out. But if it's like music, we usually listen to the song together, the whole thing. And he, like my brother Stefano, he knows what I should be on or what kind of music is going to bring out my vocals the best. So I don't, I let Kuda do his thing, and I basically let Cooley do his thing. But Cooley, like I said, he wants to hear the whole song in full too. I mean, I'm sure Kuda Mac does the same thing too. I'm just not there during that process. But Cooley, he'll listen to the whole song, and even before I say anything, he'll know the pieces that I'm, that I want, because he knows what kind of tracks that I should be on or that I will perform well on.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, because I'm thinking about the dynamic duos that we know from hip hop. Eric B and Rakim, Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, even Salt and Pepper. Their producers tend to have this connection, this organic connection, so that they know, like you said, what you are going to sound good on. How do you build a connection like that? If you just met this person, how do you know that this producer is going to be able to bring out the best in you while you're bringing out the best in them?
Well, I think for Stefano, like I said, that's my brother. God bless the dead. We were best friends to the point where we could finish each other's sentences. We know what kind of stuff, everything that we like, colors, patterns, music, TV shows. So it was just a natural thing for him. For Cooley, we've built a great relationship too. That's my little brother. But not only that for Cooley, but Cooley is a great producer. He's very musically inclined. He raps himself. He's probably one of the best rappers in our area, if not nationally. So he already knows rap patterns, and like I said, he's just a great multi-talented producer. Plus, like I said, we've built a relationship. We've gone digging together. We've gone out of town together. We've gone, lots of places together. We hang out. We have a organization called the Gym City Get Down, a charity event, and we throw this big charity event together. So we spent a lot of time, so he knows how I operate and I know how he operates. Like I said, he's like a little brother to me. I mean, that's family. Okay. And with Kuda Mac, he's a very, very great producer. He's produced for a lot of people in our area, Chicago, and all around the country. Our people are always seeking him out, doing tracks. So, I mean, he has thousands and thousands of beats. And then working on a project, my last album we did together, Picket and Kuda's Flight from Chicago. And, some of the tracks, he got to the point where, like Cooley, he knew what I would sound good on, and he'd be like, yo, this you've been good on this. And other times I would just send him, yo, chop this up. Okay,
so I was reading your bio, and I noticed that you're into Afrofuturism. So for those of us who don't know what that is, can you briefly, because I know it could probably be really detailed from what I was reading in your bio, can you tell us what that is?
So I guess in layman's terms, the best way to describe it is like, we've always had sci-fi. But if you watch older sci-fi movies, TV shows, Black people don't seem to be in the future. Star Trek had one regular Black actress, peace to Uhura. There was a black guy that's on a couple of episodes, but they only had one actual cast black person. And any sci-fi from like this, I think Buck Rogers had one black person on it. I can't even remember if Battlestar Galactica had one. So what Afrofuturism is a reimagining of sci-fi, space, and things of that nature, and making sure that we're in the narrative. And it covers a large range, not just sci-fi movies and television, but comic books, music. I would say call it music theater is what I would call it. Because when you think of some of the artists that we consider in Afrofuturism, of course you think of George Clinton, Parliament with the mothership and all the flamboyant space gear that they wore on stage. The father, as far as music, we consider Sun Ra the father of that movie, as far as music.
Okay.
He had a real comedic theme in his music, his wardrobe. He had a real community in his lifestyle. The band members all lived together. They all studied comedic science and all types of hieroglyphics and futuristic theories together, and the performances were just wild and just super entertaining. Now, as far as literature, I think most of my Afrofuturism peers would say that W.E. Du Bois would be the father of it when it comes to literature, because he was writing sci-fi pieces way back in the day. So far as literature, I would say that. And then not too far from separated from us, of course, you have Delaney and you have Octavia Butler. And so that, you know, it's a accumulation of Afrocentric lifestyle combined with sci-fi.
Okay. So you gave us some names to look for, and if y'all caught those names, go and look those people up. They're on Facebook, I'm sure, and Instagram. Everybody's on social media.
Definitely.
Right. So I saw, speaking of social media, I saw that you had a celebration, if you will, for the 20th anniversary of your Who Are Is album.
Word.
So after listening to that, it was a little, it gave me Busta Rhymes, ODB, just this wild MC kind of guy. So talk to us about like the inspiration for that album and why that title.
The title, I have always, I guess, talked in what most people would call broken English. I spell in broken English, sometimes in hieroglyphics of my own, not of actual hieroglyphics of ancient Kemet, but like even when I'm writing, sometimes instead of writing a word, I'll write a picture. I draw a doodle in a verse. So it was just like broken English. Instead of saying who I am, who are is, like just putting me a more emphasis of not, you can't single me down to put me in a box, or like who we, like you would say who we are.
Or I would say, who are you?
Or who are you? It's a big accumulation. So that's why it was who are is, and it's a Z instead of S, just to be, you know, ebonically speaking. And what was your first question about it?
Where did the inspiration come from?
The inspiration for that album, I would say, was a journey.
Okay.
You know, when you go in to make an album, you might have a theme already, or sometimes you just do songs. Going into that, I was not really a solo artist. I prefer not to be a solo artist. I like groups. I prefer rap groups over rap artists. And that's just because you get a lot of different flavors with groups.
Okay.
And also my style is very avant-garde, abstract.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of times it can be too much for some consumers. So I was going into it like, this is going to be my only solo album. At the current time, I was in a group. Shout out to the Watchmen, 13th Floor, Silent Assassin, Phase Out of Lion, and Aboriginal. And everybody had their own style. But I was going into it, and I've been talking about each song separately in a series. You could check me out on Facebook, /Team Picket, breaking down these songs. But collectively, I was going into it like, this is going to be my first and only solo album. And also it was an experiment because my brother Stefano, God bless the dead, he always liked to watch him. He liked to watch him. He always liked me. Like I said, we're family, but he liked to watch him as a group. He thought we all had skills lyrically, but the production wasn't where it needed to be. So he was like, you need to do a solo project, even though you don't like being a solo artist, just to kind of show an example of where the production needs to be, where the beats, the packaging, and the sound quality in a whole. So that's what I went into it, doing it with that in mind.
So you talk about, collabos, and there are a lot of collabos on that album from your Watchmen and your Cosmic Souls collective. How do you pick who goes on which song? Like, how do you listen to a beat and go, this is a song for 13th Floor, or this is a song for Silent Assassin? How do you decide who goes where?
Sometimes it's easy. And sometimes I kind of, just listening to the beat, Stefano would be like, yo, put so-and-so on this or so-and-so on that. And so, on some of the songs on that actual album, it was just a matter of fact of who was there.
Okay.
Because I was telling everybody, hey, my man Stefano is coming down. He's going to be here for a few days. I think they were here for between 3 and 5 days they were here. We had me and my lady friend, we had just had a baby. It was a half a double. It was huge. We had a lot of space. So I was telling people to come through. Hey, when can you come over? When you come over, my man's gonna be here this amount of time. And then he would play beats. And sometimes he would be like, yo, I got something for that, or I want to get on that song. And people were right there writing their verses to the beats he would play.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw you post on your Instagram some pictures from the recording of that session, and it really looked like a family reunion if only your cousins came. If only your male cousins came to the party. That's what those pictures kind of remind me of. So, speaking of that album, it's 20 years later. Why re-release it? Why do you think the world needs to hear that particular album again?
One, I think I said a lot of stuff that is relevant of today. There are a lot of joints that the music doesn't sound dated. And also it was just like, it was the anniversary, and I know, it was right as the internet was kind of like really taking off for people, especially urban culture people. And during that time, a lot of, I would say that there were no smartphones back then. So everybody wasn't on the internet. Heads were on the internet, but a lot of younger generation have not been on the internet. Every house didn't have a computer. I don't even think that we had a computer in our home at the time I recorded that album. So, I wanted to, that was one reason. Another reason is, how every city is when it comes to the rap community, hip hop community, whatever you want to call it. These people make these lists, and people say stuff about longevity, and people say stuff about who's the hottest and whatever. I re-released it because, like I said, the second reason, because I wanted to show that longevity is definitely there for me. Longevity, I am the crown bearer. And usually I don't even, when people say who's the hottest, who's the best on the list, I name who I like. I never put myself on a list. And this year, I decided I'm not doing that anymore. Because I know I'm the crown bearer. I know that from the 96, when I first put out a project, which wasn't a solo project, it was a compilation, until 2018, I consistently put out music. I may have taken breaks and pauses, but I still have been consistently putting out music. And then, re-releasing this, I haven't been able to record because of COVID. But I said, once that stops, I'm going to release so much stuff that it's not going to be a question about it. I'm going to tell people straight up, whenever a conversation occurs about that, I'm the crown bearer. This is my city when it comes to music. And if it ain't me, it's my crew. We are Dayton's hip hop scene. I don't mean to be cocky about it, but I've always been overly humble about it. Right. And that's over now. We could be, I'm not a Bible thumper. We could be in our last days. Today could be my last day. Without pandemic, or I could get hit by a car. And I've just decided that I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm the crown bearer. I'm maybe not the most lyrical, the best lyricist, but I'm the most consistent. I have the best people surrounding me. I have the best production.
So do you think because you haven't been overly cocky and you haven't, put yourself on the quote unquote list, do you think that's why you get left off the list? Because you're not as braggadocious as your average rapper that you say that you're not, obviously. But do you feel like that's why you get left off, because you aren't out here believing your own hype, if you will?
I definitely think that that's the biggest part of it. It's definitely the biggest part of it. And one thing that I will always be thankful for is that my little brothers, Cooley and Beezus, they knew about me before. They came to me in a time where I was just like, I'm not doing music or anything anymore. I just wasn't concerned about it. I didn't like what I was hearing. I didn't have access to, record. I mean, Stefano was still here at the time, but we were so far away that it wasn't like we can be really consistent as we needed to be in music. I think during that time, he was living out the country, actually. So we couldn't be consistent on record. And I just was like, whatever about it. And they approached me like, yo, we know your music, and we know your music from back in the day. And we feel like, you are authentic. And it still, after they came to me, still took a couple of years before I released something. I think I hooked up about 2010, and I went out of the country and did some work with Stefano and released a project in 2012. So that was 2 years, and I did that project. And then I didn't do a project with them until 2015. I think I finally got, and these dudes were on me. That's why I loved them. They were on me. Hey, don't be a B. Don't, hey, you ain't doing nothing. Hey, you got to pull your weight. Hey, you need to be doing stuff. I mean, they be on me so hard. Sometimes I go over to the crib and I leave. And then they call me, hey man, we sorry, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I needed that. And then what I started, like I said, before 2015, 2014, I would go over there and I would just like do one verse because I was trying to get my feet wet.
Right.
And they would let me know, okay, you did a verse. What's that? And I took that. I ate that. I even talked about it on the songs. Like, they talking about trading me. This game, I'm going to score 63.
Shout out to friends that hold you accountable.
Yes, that's what people need. A lot of people have yes men. I have, it's time to work, man. And that's why I said I'll always be indebted to them, because now I'm ready. Like I said, because of COVID, we're not recording right now, but I have an album written already. And then, and I'm currently writing on a new project, because the album I have written is with another producer. Shout out to Blue Buttons in South Africa. I just have to record that when we're able to, and I'm already just, usually I like to write after I have the production, but now I'm doing this thing now where I'm just trying to write. So we can get back and chop it up. I'm ready, because like I said, I'm not taking that anymore. I'm the crown bearer. TBR Lodge, that's my crew, and we the greatest. It's just what it is.
I like that. So from listening to you as we get ready to wrap up this whole interview, first of all, you have to come back, because I still have like a whole list of questions and stuff that I need to know for my own self. Oh. So first, let me ask you, do you commit to coming back to doing a part 2 of this interview?
Definitely.
Okay. So as we wrap this up, with the many hats that you wear, what do you do for self-care?
Well, the biggest thing that I like to do for self-care is walking meditation. I love walking, whether it be through a city, trails, track. Mostly I do it on a track. It allows me to not only get exercise, but it allows me to be at thought with myself. And I can calm myself down, or I can think of pieces of songs, or I can just think on a subject and create my own philosophy on any particular subject. I'm with myself, and I'm breathing. I'm doing deep breathing. I'm not just strolling. I'm walking. I'm walking real fast, and I'm doing deep breathing, and I'm with myself and my thoughts. So walking meditation is my biggest thing for self-care.
Okay, so this week, our self-care assignment is to get in a meditative walk, even if it's just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, with some music.
Yes.
So as directed by our special guest, MC Picket. So I don't know if you've seen our show before, but if you've seen the shows with me and the poet, A. Slate, the spoken word artist, this is her favorite part of the show. And she
I like this part. Brain science.
Yes. All right. So our brain science this week talks about music therapy. Have you ever felt chills when listening to music? According to a study by Nussbaum and Sylvia in 2010, over 90% of us have. How powerful the effects of music, though, depends on your personality. People who are high in one of the 5 personality dimensions called openness to experience are likely to feel the most chills when listening to music. A Stanford study shows that music engages areas of the brain which are involved in paying attention, making predictions, and updating events in our memory. Much like expert technical skills, mastery in arts and humanities is closely correlated to a greater understanding of language and its components. In an article from neuroscience researchers, found evidence that musical experience strengthens many of the same aspects of the brain function that are impaired in individuals with language and learning difficulties, such as the neural timing precision, which allows differentiation between speech and syllables. Researchers from Ohio State University's Wexner Medical Center looked at how different types of music and silence were processed in the brains of 21 people with epilepsy. Whether listening to classical music or jazz, all of the participants had much higher levels of brainwave activity when listening to music. The study also found brainwave activity in the epilepsy patients tended to synchronize more with the music, especially in the temporal lobe. So when I read that, what I get out of that is what Nas said in one of his most famous songs, "Save the music. Music education equals brain power. You cannot have an education in a school, and you can't call it education if you're leaving out music and art, if you're leaving out that creative expression."
Definitely.
So, as an educator myself, I see the effects of music and art being taken out of schools. We got to find a way to get a better balance. I don't know if that's managing the educational spending better so that these things are not taken out, but we have to give our kids a creative outlet. We got to give them a chance.
Without a doubt.
Right. We got to give them a chance to explore those creative expressions.
Definitely.
So, MC Picket Fence, tell us where to find you.
You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/Team Picket. You can also, if you want to just see what I see, you can follow me on Instagram. I probably won't follow you back. No disrespect, but I'm just out there trying to show you what I'm seeing. And that's at MC Pick Fence. I'm on YouTube. Just, Google me. MC Picket Fence, or you could just put in Picket Fence. You can cop my music and other merch at picketfence1.bandcamp.com.
I like it. And if you like what you hear from us and from Picket Fence, you can always find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can always email us at flywithusla@gmail.com. Mr. Picket Fence, I know you hate the mister, but I gotta throw that
Definitely
in.
don't like that.
I gotta put it in because it's respect. We gotta put some respect on your name.
I appreciate it, but MC is good enough for me. I'm nobody's master. I'm a dude from Dayton. Gym City always dime, you heard?
I like it. And with that said, I'm Lady Bounce, Mr. Picket Fence. We out of here.
Peace.